Hello, I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. I want to welcome you to this episode of GTO Coach and Go. We've got a lot to cover today, but before we get started, I want to remind you, if you've not joined us yet, or if you've just not done this yet, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And also, if you ring the bell, you'll be notified anytime we have new content on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook, Group Travel Odyssey, and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. We've got a lot of stuff that we put on our social media channels, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. Well, today we are going to be covering some new information, and it's something that I am definitely going to need help with. So I'm going to be bringing on our lead engineer, Christina Lutz. So let's bring Christina on right now. And we're going to talk today about receptive ranged quotes.
Yes. Yes,
I
we
get
are.
it right.
All right. Yeah. So receptive range quotes. So it's one of those features. We actually have it as an optional feature right now. So if you were to go into your sales manager application, you would not actively see it unless you've already requested it. So ultimately, you just put in a help desk and you can request this feature that I'm about to show you. And it's one of those features that we find that people who need it really need it. And some of you don't see it a lot. So we'll go through it and explain how that works. So I'm going to just jump right in and share my screen.
Okay. There we go.
All right. So I'm actually going to start today. I created a little mock quote to explain where this is coming from. So we see this a lot with receptives where you are not just getting maybe a collection of things to do for attractions, but you're also getting lodging. Maybe you're getting some transportation. So it's kind of an all-in-one receptive type of quote. That's typically where to set your mind when you're thinking about this. So in this scenario here, we have a receptive quote that came in that said what the price would be based upon a passenger range. So if you're familiar with GTO and creating trips in there, you might think about the idea of grid pricing. So it's similar to that, where you are having a range, a number of passengers, and a price. So the quote might come in one of two ways. So in this way that I put in, they've told us these are the ranges of passenger numbers. And then this is the price, and this is a price based upon quad occupancy, and it's in euros. And then it tells us down here that if they were to want to be in a different type of room, such as triple, double, or single, there is an upgrade charge. So that is one way that that quote might come in. Now there's a second way that those quotes might come in, and that is going to be they hand you off basically a grid like this or something similar where they have those ranges again, but then they have this grid filled out where they say this is the price for quad, triple, double, single, and each of these range number of passengers. So ultimately, when you're creating your trip in Sales Manager, if you want to be able to reflect in your own grid pricing in the Sales Manager proposal, you can now do that. So I'm just going to scooch this over and move over to the proposal in Sales Manager. So I'm just on a test one here, and ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to add a quote. So receptive accommodations, they're under the same area. So push accommodation and add quote. And this is going to be a receptive. And we're just going to put in miscellaneous receptive. Let's just use the one that's euros. And the price, we'll just go ahead and use the per person. All right, so I'm going to skip this part for now and come back to it. This is what you normally use when you're filling out your quote, and you will still need to use it. But you will notice that there are some prompts that happen along the way. So if you have the type of quote that has been given to you, so the document has been given to you by the receptive supplier. So if you've been given that, like I just showed you the example on that Excel document, then go ahead and click this check to enter in prices per range of passengers. And then just a reminder, you don't have to use this method. This really is important if you want to just reflect the difference in price for using a grid pricing selling price for your proposal. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill in here. It's asking for those passenger ranges. Now keep in mind too, again, if you're using grid pricing, these ranges are going to be the same for across all other products. So if you do add something else, it will take the ranges from this Receptive across that as well. So we'll just do just copying from my other screen here. You don't have to fill in all 10. They're just available for you if you need all 10. 34, 39, and 50. All right. And then we have the option here of select a pricing option. So now you'll see there's one that says list prices for all occupancies. So that one, I'm going to go back to this note in a moment, but this note is basically warning us that if you want to still have your prices non-grid pricing calculate correctly, you do need to fill in that part that I skipped up at the top. That is the price for the actual passengers going currently. So I'll go back to that in a moment. But this option for list prices for all occupancies is this akin. So if we have this grid, that's the option you want to use. So basically you're just going to take this grid that you were given and fill it into the blanks. So we have sexed down through single, depending upon what they offer. Again, you don't have to fill in everything, just fill in what they gave you. So we have our quad, and then we have triple. Double. And then single. All right, so then this is how you would fill that in. So you're just taking that grid that supplier gave you as their quote and putting it in here. Now, if we were given the other quoting mechanism, then what you can do here is, and I'm just going to go ahead and clear these out so I can use the other method to show you. And you can use either method. Both will calculate to your grid pricing ultimately. Then we're going to use this individual prices with occupancy, upcharge, or credit. Now that is going to be the first one I showed you. So they told us this is your range of passengers, this is the base rate, and that's if everybody is using the quad occupancy. Now, if you have some people in other occupancy type rooms, then you wouldn't have an upgrade charge. Otherwise, they might also list a credit. So maybe there's a credit if they were going to be in a quint room. So we have the first range. So we're just filling this in here. Making sure I don't put too many zeros in there. And then ultimately right here, so now for this one, you're going to select the occupancy for the quoted above prices. So you'll see there is sexed through single and also individual. So if you have a receptive quote that does involve a place that is being stayed and you have an occupancy for that type of room, you would have one of these rates. So for this one, we had quad. But for some receptives, there is no lodging as part of it. So it's really just a one price for everyone. That case, you would pick individual. So that is the difference here. It depends on if you have the lodging or you don't. So this one we did, so we'll pick quad. And then it's just giving us a reminder again, like the other one did, to fill in that top portion. And then for the quad, there is no upcharge because it's going to be the exact price as shown here. But for triple, it told us that, so just pull this over once more. We see triple is a $100 upgrade, double is $150, and single is a $200. So what we're going to do is triple was $100 more, double is $150, and single is $200. So you can use either of these methods, depend whether or not you got the quote in one method or the other. If you prefer the grid, you can just calculate it out and fill it in. Otherwise, you can take a grid that they gave you and reverse it into this method too. Both will calculate the same ultimately for your price. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and fill in this top portion that I mentioned. So because we do have occupancy rates that differ, you can see they have that difference for quad, triple, double, and single. We'll want to make sure we check this if rates differ by occupancy. And then for this, the quote quad, triple, double, single that you're used to filling in if you had an accommodation quote or a receptive quote that is not based on a ranged number of passengers, what you're going to fill in here is your current paying passengers, wherever that fits on the grid. So let's go back to our quote and let's just say, because I don't recall what the number is on this specific test trip, let's just say we fall in between 40 to 44. So our price is going to be 1,000 for quad, and then it's just going to go up by those increased rates. So then for a triple, it would be up 100, so it'll be 1,100. Double would be up 150, and single would be up 200. And then you can have that in there. And then that will make sure if you do decide to switch off of grid pricing later on, you still have an accurate price that you're using for your proposal. If you did have a quote that was not occupancy based, instead of clicking this if rates differ by occupancy, you would instead just fill in that per person rate right into this room field here. And then ultimately, we're just going to go ahead and save. So that is creating the quote. So now we want to add it to the trip. So we're going to go ahead and click Add Trip. And just a brief note, because you did see on my last page here that I do already have a hotel quote that says it's on the trip already, and that is totally fine. If you have, let's say, a receptive that does not include lodging and you need to add one, you can do that. It will calculate it out for you on the back end. Otherwise, you don't have to include it, or maybe if you have lodging in it, but you also want to add in maybe a one-night stay, or maybe even just your tour director or your driver. That is something that you can do as well.
Okay.
All right, so now we have that product on here, so we can go forward into the price for the trip itself. So as I mentioned, this is more for when you are doing grid pricing. But before we do that, one of the things that comes up a lot that I wanted to make sure I remind you all on is, if you remember, my price was in euros. And now if I go back to my trip, you can see my price is in US dollars. So we need to make sure that we put in that currency conversion rate. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this trip product and go to Edit. And you'll see that I have this warning here of the currency conversion needed because the two do not match. This is something that some people have put in some help desks about, so I'm just wanted to give just a shout out to this. Then make sure you put in your currency conversions if you are using a quote, especially that happens the most often, a quote that is not in the same currency as your trip. So make sure you go back to the trip product and put in that currency conversion. So just for the sake of not looking it up, we're just going to say it's 1.1. It's probably different, but I'm just going to put that. All right, and we're just going to save it. All right. So now what we're going to do is go and create that grid pricing. So we're going to go to set selling price. Now I had already went ahead and picked my margin and my package pricing options. And you can see what has been calculated below, which does include, because I put in that occupancy at my current passenger level, it now includes that. So if you wanted to move forward with these prices and not use grid pricing, you absolutely can do that. But if you do want to show your clients those ranged options in case they change numbers, you would go ahead and select use grid pricing. And then we're going to push this create selling prices. And just give it a moment here while it creates those prices. And again, that range is going to be based upon the range you set in your quote. Because of that, you can only do one of those ranged quotes per proposal, because otherwise your ranges might be different. All right, and there we go. So now you can see the difference as the passenger levels change. the price of the trip will also change with that receptive. So if you want to be able to share that difference for your client, you have that option now, especially when you receive this type of quote. We know that's usually going to be the bulk majority of your trip, and you might want to be able to have a little more transparency with your client, possibly about what that difference is going to be. If they change from, maybe they have 40 and they want to go down to 30, well, that's going to be a price difference. So if you want to be able to tell your client that this is the way that you now have to do that. And that is the receptive ranged quoting. And again, it is optional.
That is really great because, it gives the opportunity to not only just have our regular grid pricing, but if you have this receptive product that is also based on ranges, it gives you the way to actually add that into the quote. So that way, it lines everything up, because if you think about it, just in my brain, it makes my brain hurt to think that, if you're grid pricing part of the package and then you're grid pricing the receptive part of the package separately, how do you get those two to mesh?
Exactly.
So, wow.
Right. And that is exactly why we built out this feature, because we had your feedback, and that's why the feedback is so important to us. We did have feedback and we're provided with some examples, and that's how we're able to create this product for you all to use, so that you have that opportunity to be able to get that to match more what you want to send out to your client.
That's fantastic. And again, anytime that you have feedback for us, you can reach out to us. You know how to send a help desk. It's already here, help@gtonetwork.com, and put help in the subject line. You can reach out to any of us as well. Our information can be found on our website, which is grouptravelodyssey.com. So again, feedback, give us ideas. A lot of the stuff I know that we have in our development pipeline is there because of you. It's because of our members. You give us the ideas. You ask us if things can be done. And as much as we would love to be able to do them immediately, there are a lot of times that it requires a lot of Christina's skill and her team as well to actually put all of this together and test it behind the scenes and make sure it works properly. So that way, once it is launched, it's there for you to use. So again, Christina, thank you and your team for all of the work that you put in to all of this, not only for the receptive ranged quotes, but for everything that you're building into the system. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We do work very hard to, give you the best product. And just another quick reminder, if you do want those receptive ranged quotes, just reach out to us in the help desk. We'll be happy to.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is something that can be set up upon request. So it's not something that you're going to go in and notice in your system. It's something that we would have to have set up for you. So again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So again, Christina, thank you so much for bringing this to us today. And just a reminder to everybody that GTO Coach and Go happens every other Tuesday at 2:00 Eastern time. So make sure to join us to watch that as well on Thursdays. And we've not got one this week, but next week we have our destination dispatch. So we did one this past week on Liverpool. We've got one coming up next week on New Orleans. So make sure to join us on Thursday, April 27th at 2:00 Eastern time for our next destination dispatch. You may ask, what if I can't join live? Well, as with this program, all of our programs can be found on our YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on LinkedIn, like us on Facebook. There are a lot of really great videos on our YouTube channel, not only dealing with how to utilize our system the most efficient way that you possibly can, but also gives you some pointers and some tips on how to use it better. We also have all of our destination dispatch episodes from last year and the ones from this year that we're doing as well. So make sure to hit that subscribe button in YouTube so that way you can be up to date on everything that we have. So Christina, again, thank you so much for bringing all of this in. Thanks for always joining us. Well, every other week, joining us on GTO Coach and Go. And
Absolutely.
also, for those of you who've not seen Christina on our fast breaks, on the weeks that we don't have GTO Coach and Go, we do have GTO fast breaks, which are just snippets, little short pieces of information that will help you use the system better. Those can be found in your community forum. So if you go into the community forum, you could do a search for those there, and you will be able to see Christina doing the fast breaks as well.
Yep. Those are very helpful.
They are. They really are. So again, thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching us. Again, if you have questions and need to reach out, please make sure to do so. Until 2 weeks from now, we will see you then. And again, reach out, give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Take care. Christina,
Right. Bye, everybody.
see ya. Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of GTO Coach and Go. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and be sure to check out more of our media, including Destination Dispatch and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.